Hey everybody, and welcome to the intersection of sports and marketing. I'm Cristiano, and this is episode 17 of OUTOFSCOPE. And today, Jetblue starts charging for baggage, and I give a shout out to Phil Knight of Nike. All you marketers out there need to listen to this.
Sports marketing expert Cristiano.
Cristiano.
Marketers and advertisers and brands always have to keep in mind, you have to play to the state of your audience.
Endurance sports athletes are absolutely fanatics.
Having a Facebook page doesn't get you any business, but doing it right can be quite effective.
Today, Phil Knight stepped down as the chairman of Nike. We don't know why yet. I'm sure by the time this episode even airs, we'll know exactly the reason why. But regardless of why he stepped down as the chairman, Phil Knight, I want to just give a real big shout out to him, man. He built obviously one of the, if not the most iconic brand in the entire world, a company that's, close to our hearts as a agency that works with sports brands. It's, he created magic, right? It's, you think back to all that Nike has done in the past few decades. Phil Knight started the company with Bill Bowerman in 1964, and it was actually called Blue Ribbon Sports before it was called Nike. I don't know how many people know that, but it didn't become Nike until 1971. The swoosh, I think the swoosh only cost like $35 to whoever the artist was that made it, because they had no idea how big of a behemoth, awesome, brilliant company it would become. And Phil Knight, as far as sports marketing goes, as far as brands go, as far as that whole industry goes, like he built that thing from the ground up with Bill Bowerman initially, and just took it to a whole other level that nobody had ever done before, and no one has been able to replicate since. So real big shout out to Phil Knight, just real awesome dude, brilliant marketer, brilliant businessman, really smart guy. So sad to see him step down as a chairman. Hopefully it's just because he wants to retire, but I'm sure we'll find out soon the reasons why, but big shout out, man. That takes us into the next piece, which is quite the opposite of a shout out, kind of a shame out, maybe we can call it. That was kind of terrible. But JetBlue has started charging for baggage for the first bag now, and it's not really my thing to call out brands on the show. That's not what the show's about, but I think it's something that needs to be talked about as far as an industry that's gone awry, as far as companies and brands that have let it happen, and marketing that has perpetuated the problem. JetBlue has always been based on, we're the different airline, we are the customer service airline, we're different, we're fun, we're vibrant, there's more space, there's no fees, you get the blue chips, all that cool stuff, right? And I've slowly noticed over the last few years that their customer service has been not quite there, that these weird fees have been popping up. I fly my bike everywhere, and JetBlue was always my go-to airline because it was $100 flat fee, no questions asked. Then the last 3 or 4 times I've flown, they've argued with me about, it's $100 for the bike, but it's also considered an extra bag, so you have to pay for an extra baggage fee, which I don't even think is legal, but you can't even argue, and then nobody has any sort of the lower level employees have no sort of power to make any decisions anymore. And from my experience as someone who has done business with hundreds of other companies, every single time that kind of stuff happens, whatever's in the weeds, whatever's at the bottom, it's filtered down from the top. It's direct correlation to whoever is up at the top, the CEO, the manager, the supervisor, but it comes directly down from the top. And, I think there's been a super big change in the last 3-4 years, right? Like Robin Hayes came in and, now he's the CEO this year, and it's all about profits. And I get it. It's a publicly traded company. It has to make money. It has to make more money for the shareholders. I understand it. But they're apparently well far behind Southwest. They're well far behind Delta. And I've got to say, as somebody who travels often, Delta's been doing a pretty reasonable job. They're not my favorite airline. Yeah, they nickel and dime you for a bunch of stuff, but it's pretty straightforward. You know what you're going to get. With JetBlue, they built up a brand through their marketing of here is the level of expectations that consumers have from a brand like JetBlue. They've elevated those expectations. And as a brand, it's our job and it's our necessity to not just meet those expectations, but to exceed those expectations on an individual basis for every single customer. A lot of that comes from customer service, from how companies present their brand as a brand, and then how they deliver on that. But it's not just about meeting the expectations, it's about exceeding it. Because if your expectations are met, it's kind of mediocre. It's fine. It's good. You go to a restaurant and it's met your expectations. The food has met your expectations. It's good. It's fine. Awesome. But if it exceeded that and it was killer and it was great, you're going on Yelp, you're talking about it, you're tweeting about how awesome it was. And if it was crappy, didn't meet your expectations, you're also on Yelp and Twitter, etc., talking crappy about it, right? And I think the same thing goes for the airlines. Not only have they not met expectations, they've been so far below expectations for so long that everyone collectively as consumers have just kind of like, oh, this is the way it is. That's not the way it is. That's not the way it's supposed to be, right? Southwest, I don't fly them very often, but when and if I have, it's a pretty good experience. It's consistent. They set the expectations. They meet or exceed those expectations every single time. You know what you're going to get. JetBlue has built up these expectations over the years, and it's slowly, they've still set that their expectations are up here, but they've slowly declined in delivering on. And they're not meeting them. They're well below getting close to them, and now they they hammer people with baggage fees. I read that just the $25 in additional baggage fees alone is going to net JetBlue $200 million in revenue annually. You can't figure out what to do with $200 million, then I don't know what's going on, right? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing wrong? Like, how do you not make $200 million work? And their argument is, well, that's the whole point. We're trying to make $200 million work. So we're trying to make $200 million more dollars so we can make everything else work. But apparently they're also adding more seats. So you're getting less service, less legroom, at a higher cost. They're nothing anymore. They're like everyone else. The brand is dead. The brand is absolutely dead, and Robin Hayes has totally destroyed it. In my opinion, it's totally destroyed. In 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, there's going to be somebody else up at the top. Hopefully there is, because right now I kind of feel like that whole industry is flat and it's a real shitty industry, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't need to get into it, but that's a whole nother episode, and I'm kind of getting on a little rant here, which is exciting. This one's getting a little fun. I think it's just because I'm flying tomorrow, and that's just irritating me that I have to now go through all this garbage. There's no like, oh wow, fantastic airline, fantastic experience. They're all like, oh yeah, if it's mediocre, you're like, oh, that was pretty good. There's no like, that was fantastic. When was the last time you said fantastic after flying? Not in a long time. So my point with this is really that, you know, it's marketing that's a large fault of this. Number one, for setting the expectations. Number two, marketing has allowed these companies to falsely hide fees into other things. So they're deflating the price of their tickets. And it's not just JetBlue, right? Delta, United, American, they're all guilty of this, right? This is like the new standard, which is garbage in my opinion. This has to change. But they're all doing the same things. They are deflating the cost, at least what the ticket price looks like. So if, oh, the ticket's only $300. Oh, but by the time you check in and add the luggage fees and the baggage fees and some other fees, the ticket's really $400. They're making the tickets look cheaper to the average consumer, and they're marketing it as if they're cheaper or they are $300. In reality, they're not. The baggage doesn't cost $25 to put on the airplane. It's another $25 in ticket fees that they're subsidizing through baggage. And that's the problem that I have when marketers and brands use marketing in a negative connotation to trick consumers into saying, hey, really the ticket's only this price, but it's not. We're just moving the money somewhere else. And that needs to stop. And I think as marketers, as agencies, as people in general, why are we trying to screw everybody over, right? This is a huge industry. Just say it how it is. I'd rather spend $325 on my ticket and know that that's how much my ticket costs, and not have to then get to the airport and, oh, now I gotta pay another $25 for this and another $50 for that. And I don't think I'm alone. I'm pretty sure everybody out there in any single industry that sees this would agree with me. Maybe you don't. Maybe you love JetBlue. I don't know. Maybe you're excited to pay $25 extra. But I would love to hear from you and get your point of view. Let me know what you think. I would love some comments on what you think about the airline industry, and if you think marketing is perpetuating it and making it worse for a consumer's perspective. Let me know. Comment, like, share, tune into the podcast, get in on iTunes. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys episode 18.